and Prosperity podcast. I am your host, Life Coach Shereka Dunston, and I am very excited today because we get to talk about purpose again. Y'all know I love talking about purpose. So today I am joined by a very special guest, Galek, who, she's a coach too. Y'all know I love featuring coaches on this podcast, but she's a coach doing very important work in her community and honestly across the country, right? Supporting families. So Judy, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Shereka. This is such a great opportunity to have this conversation with you. I am so grateful for this. Awesome.
I'm so happy to have you here. And before we start talking about purpose, please introduce yourself in your own way.
Sure. My name is Judy Galek. I'm a life coach. I work with families of people who are struggling with drug and alcohol addiction, but mainly parents struggling to support their, adult children in active addiction, early recovery, at any stage of the recovery. Really, it could be the child living at home, or there's some friction there. The child is no longer at home, but there's still some connection. So I educate the families and coach them to have a better relationship with their children. That way they can be more effective at how they are showing up and supporting recovery and stop doing all the things that hinder that process. So that is in essence what I do now. But I'm very passionate about reading. I'm very passionate about educating, just engaging with people. I love people. I'm a people person. I'm a recovering people pleaser. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you're doing with families. Addiction is something that we don't really talk about a lot out loud, with people in public. There's so much shame and stigma attached to it, even for the families who have, children in active addiction or, siblings or what have you. So thank you for the work you're doing.
You're very welcome.
Yes. So as a social worker, that's my other career aside from life coaching. I've always had this admiration for folks who could do the work of working with folks who are addicted to substances and their families. That hasn't been, my area of expertise in social work, but it's so needed. It's so needed, especially during these times.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great honor to be doing this work. I feel like it's just amazing. Sometimes I get so overwhelmed with emotions. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. And, families coming to me, telling me how much better they're doing, how much better they're getting along with their children, how their children are now in recovery and doing all the right things that they had wanted for them. And it's just amazing. And I think that there can't be enough people. Like, there's not enough people doing this work. We need like all hands on deck. But we all have to find our purpose and do the things that really pull at our hearts, right? So it's not everybody's journey to be doing what I'm doing. So that I understand too. But yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm so happy you brought up purpose. So Judy, please share with our listeners and viewers, what does purpose mean to you?
Oh, purpose is like this thing that, like, it's undefinable. It's more so like a feeling. It's not an action word like love. I would say love is very like, it's an action word. You can't just tell someone you love that person. You actually have to embody love and show it, right, in a way that you can best show it. But purpose is like, it's not something that you can do. It's something that you feel, like this energy, that's this pull from your body, from your heart, your soul, like pulling you in a certain path. And it's like nothing else you do would make sense or would be enjoyable if you're not on that path. I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. It's like a magnet just pulling you towards it,
Yeah.
right? It's like a force field almost. I totally get it. It's so funny. The work that I find purpose in actually overlapped into my social work career and into my life coaching career. And even when I try to like leave that work alone and I'm not doing that anymore, it still pops up in different ways, even for me as a life coach and a life coach trainer. And every single time I laugh because I can't run away from it. It has a hold on me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's purpose for you, like a magnet. I love that. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, why do you think we need a sense of purpose in our lives?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's important because I feel like it's what gives us meaning, the will to go through all the difficulties, all the chaos, all the trauma, to work through from the trauma and come out to the other end. I look at it as like the jungle we have to travel through to get to the other side, where there's like, white sand, blue, sunny skies, and then the ocean is right there. You're like, heaven. But it's what keeps us going. If we don't have purpose, if we don't have that drive, if we're not feeling the magnetism to stay on the path and stay on the journey and keep ourselves alive, that's when we see a lot of people, committing suicide and self-destructing, because they don't feel purposeful. That's a lot I have to deal with, and the field that I'm in, recovery, parents dealing with their adult children, trying to do something like sending them to college or buying them a car, thinking that it's the thing that's going to give them purpose and, generate that will to live for them. But it's not really something you can give someone else. And that's where like some of my work comes in. Yeah.
Indeed. And I'm so happy you said purpose is not something you can give someone else. It's definitely internal, right? It has to be within a person. And I'm so happy you brought up like it gives meaning to life because so many of us go through, traumatic events or tough times or we face obstacles. And there's something about purpose that will allow you to look back on those things and find the meaning in it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The saying, hindsight is 2020. Like it's very real. In the moment that we're going through the struggle, it may feel like, oh my God, like somebody is torturing me, like God is punishing me, whatever their belief system is. The universe hates me. The world is against me. Everything is going wrong. Why is this happening to me? So they asking all the wrong questions because they cannot see the meaning behind their struggle. But looking back after we've gone through that jungle, we can look back and say, I learned this, I learned that, and it all creates like this beautiful thing, this beautiful experience at the end, and we can pass that on, we can share that on, pass it on to other people who may be in the same situation we were in, or in a situation that they're feeling hopeless in and not being able to see the way out. So yeah.
Yes, I love that. And you know what? A lot of people struggle to, look back on a hard or traumatic situation and find that meaning. It's hard for them to learn the lesson, right? And to feel okay with it. I'm not saying feel okay with trauma, of course not. But to just, find this is what I call it in my life coaching, finding the lesson in the blessing, right? And finding the blessing in the lesson. And it's hard. It takes a lot of work. And sometimes that work is with, a therapist or a clinical mental health counselor and not necessarily with a life coach. But once we do some of that work and then we're able to, sit back and use that 2020 hindsight, like, what? I did learn something from this. This taught me to, maybe it's to never do something again or to, make better choices or to believe in yourself or to love yourself a little more, right? And then to use that and share it with other people, is truly a blessing, and it gives us that sense of purpose.
Absolutely. I love that. Yes. Wow. I love how you put it. Finding, you have to say that again. I thought I had it. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe not. It's finding a blessing in the lesson, a lesson in the blessing. I love that. This is beautiful. That's
Thank
great.
you. Thank you so much. But yes, it's so necessary. And for me, I've learned that once you can, learn those lessons and, use it to help other folks, there's a sense of peace that comes with it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It all makes sense. Everything makes sense, right? Yeah. It's kind of like, oh, I get it now. I see why I had to go through what I went through to be where I am today, and how where I am today is so much more impactful and so much more, beneficial, rewarding, fulfilling, all the things. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So, Judy, let me ask you this. If you are, working with someone and they're struggling to find their sense of purpose, are there any strategies you can recommend to them to try to find their purpose?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love questions as a tool. I look at questions as a tool. It's a great tool to use to kind of like dig inward, like to dig inside yourself and discover all the things, because everything we need is within. Like all the answers are within. So when I coach someone, it's not me giving them like, oh, do this and that, and then you'll get XYZ, right? But it's really how to dig inside yourself so you can pull out the answers. So I work a lot with questions, and as a coach, I'm sure you will agree to this. Like the best coach asks the best questions, right? It's like the powerful questions that you can ask. But when I'm working with someone and they're struggling to find their purpose or don't know exactly, like why they are in the situation, parents of people struggling with addiction, the question they ask themselves is, why me? Which is it's a self-destructing question. It's like a dead-end question. It doesn't really open up any doors and, give any type of enlightenment or anything, right? It's like, why me? It's very doom and gloom. Like, this should not be happening to me, but it's okay if it happens to someone else, right? So first, it's being mindful and aware of the questions that we are asking ourselves. So once we have that awareness, and then deciding, okay, well, how are those questions helping me? Are those questions serving me, or are they like a brick wall that I'm kind of like banging my head against, So changing those questions around. What am I learning from this? What am I supposed to learn from this experience? Who would I be if I did not go through this? Or who will I be after I've gone through this? So it's a lot of questions, and based on the person, like where they are, and I want to say how deep they are, and that, like in that pit, in that hole of being like feeling hopeless and not being able to find purpose. I feel like I'm not really giving you a direct answer.
It's fine. It's all making sense.
Yeah. Okay, good. So questions, asking oneself questions, it's one of the strategies I use. And being mindful and awareness. Another question I love having people ask themselves is, why do I do what I do? Why am I doing what I'm doing? How does that help me? How does that help the other person? So getting clarity on that. And what are the results that I want? Sometimes parents think, they just want to get rid of the drugs and the alcohol, thinking that, it's a problem. If I could just kill all the drug dealers, then the world would be a good place, right? And they're thinking, oh, there'd be no more issues. But the true problem is the connection. It's the lack of connection, right? It's the lack of love. Even though they love their children, but how do you show up in a loving way to build and maintain connection? That way you're having a harmonious relationship with your loved ones, and be able to hold that space. So like when someone is struggling emotionally with emotional, pain, then you can be there and just listen and not be judgmental and not go into fear-based thinking and stop preaching. Sometimes, what people need is just a listening ear, and that's it. So it's a lot of questions, lots of questions.
I love all of what you said. And I just want to back up a moment. When you talk about the questions that a person should ask themselves, right? Questions that open doors, questions that don't lead to, dead ends, or as you said, banging your head against the wall, right? The brick wall. Those images spoke volumes to me. So thank you for saying that. And yes, as a coach, questions, that's like the basis of coaching, because we do know our clients have all the answers within them. And we have to ask those powerful questions to pull those answers out and to help them have that self-awareness and self-discovery. That's like the basis of coaching. That's why I love it so much, right? Because I don't have to do the work for them. It's helping the clients do the work. And something else you said that resonated with me a lot, helping the parents just learn to listen without judging. As a social worker, I did prevention work, specifically teen dating violence prevention work and sexual violence prevention work. So when I had to talk to parents about, okay, how do you talk to your young people? How do you talk to a 14-year-old about a healthy relationship without judging them, without making them feel bad, without punishing them? Kids don't want to talk to you if you're yelling at them or judging them or telling them you know better than dating XYZ, doing this, that, and the other. They don't want to hear that. They shut down, and then they run to that dating partner you don't want them with because they're in an unhealthy relationship. But they need that love. As you said, it's the same type of concept, even though, these folks are dealing with addiction and not, unhealthy relationships like teen dating violence. But it's the same thing.
It is, absolutely. And I would agree that it is absolutely the same concept. And I love how you put it, like, it's the unhealthy relationship. And I see the same thing happening with the recovery field as well. Because a lot of times, someone, a child, let's say that person is 17, 18, or 19 years old, about to go into college, and that person perhaps was an athlete and they were getting great grades in school, and then they leave home and go off to college, and then they meet someone who introduced them to alcohol or some type of illicit drugs, and then now they start developing a habit, which ends up in addiction, right? So the parents initially will blame that person, like, if only Susie did not meet this guy, we have to get rid of this guy. And they do all the things that, push the child towards the person that they don't want them to be with. Yeah, it's very common, actually. Yeah.
Yes,
Makes
yes,
total
indeed.
sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I remember I used to work at a nonprofit, and when I first got into teen dating violence prevention work professionally, I was under this grant that was provided by the local ABC board. So I had to do drug and alcohol prevention along with teen dating violence prevention. So you're taking me back, Judy, to that work that I used to do, because I had to have those conversations, right? Like, hey, let's think about this. let's talk about this, and how do we approach our young people?
Absolutely. I appreciate your background. It's beautiful. It's honorable work that you do, and I can see why your heart is still attached to it, right?
Thank you so much. No matter how much I try to, step away from it, I'm like, no, I don't do that anymore. Oh, I definitely still do it. I just do it in a different way now. But I love the work. The work has my heart. It gives me purpose, right?
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome.
So, Judy, do you have any last thoughts about purpose in general and just, helping our viewers and listeners, find purpose in their lives?
Yeah, I would say really look inward. Really look inward. Start asking those deep questions like, why am I here? What is my purpose? Ask the question, because unless we start asking ourselves the questions, then the answers don't come, right? So we have to start asking the right questions. Asking ourselves these questions will, as we had mentioned earlier, discover the answers, right? And really, like when we see another person and we're judging that person as someone without purpose, that doesn't say too much about the other person. It says a lot more about ourselves. So that is something to be aware and mindful of. So if you're a parent or a child, or if you're a spouse, any type of relationship you have with your loved ones, and you're thinking, oh, this person is just aiming aimlessly, they have no purpose, really check yourself, look in the mirror, and really do the deep work within. And then when that happens, we're kind of more so like what's that word I want to hear? Like it's an example where we're walking examples of what's possible, and us stepping into our purpose will show someone how, like there's something about this person. What is it? They will see how we're moving. They will see how we're showing up, how we are being, and it's contagious, right? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. It's definitely contagious. So, Judy, before we end today, I do want you to share more about your work. If you have any programs coming up, how can people find out more information about you online, whether it's a website or social media? Please share more about you and your business.
Yeah, thank you, Shereka. This is amazing. So I love what I do. It's my heart's work. It's my passion. It's my gives and purpose. It's my journey. It's all the things for me. I breathe and live what I do. And I can talk about, drug and alcohol addiction, family recovery, like forever. And it's just, a lot more people need to talk about this. And addiction, is not something that we're talking about enough. It's still the little dirty secret that the families try to push under the rug. So if anyone has questions, concerns, even to have a conversation, ask whatever, I can be reached from my website, passagecoaching.com. That's PASSAJE coaching.com. They can email me from the website. They can find me on social media from there as well. But if they go on Facebook, Judeline Galek, my full name. I like Judy because it's nice and short and people have easier time pronouncing it. But Judeline Galek, JUDELINE Galek on Facebook. On Instagram, I am Passaje, PASSAJE_LLC. That's on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn too, but I'm hoping that if someone just put my name in Google, they will be able to find me. But yeah.
Yes, indeed. Listen, it is so nice having one of those names that people can just type into Google and they can find all the ways to find you. I have one of those names too. It comes in handy. Sometimes people don't pronounce it correctly, but they can always find me. So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Judy. This has definitely been a pleasure. I have learned so much. Hopefully our listeners have learned a lot, and they're starting to ask themselves those deep questions for that self-discovery. Thank you so much for joining in on this episode of the Peace, Purpose, and Prosperity podcast. I am your host, Life Coach Shereka Dunston.